and myself, our guest co-host, SK Modified driver, and he also races on the Volante Modified Racing Series, Jeff Rocco. And later on in the show, we'll talk to another driver who competes on the Volante Modified Racing Series, Max Zachem. Also joining our guest lineup tonight, Bob Englehart. He's a longtime editorial cartoonist at the Hartford Courant, and he's a longtime short track racing fan who wrote a book called Track Rat, Memoir of a Fan. And we'll take your phone calls at 203-757-1320. Today is Monday, May 5th, 2014, and Speedway Line Report Radio is heading your way right now.
The green flag is in the air, and it's time for the Speedway Line Report, presented by Shaler Acura of Manchester, broadcasting from our WATR studios in Waterbury, Connecticut, and streaming live around the world. It's 90 minutes of auto racing news. Now, here's your host.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. Gary Danko right alongside my co-host, Rocket Rick Rotundo from R&R Fabrication. He is also the crew chief on Eric Burns' SK Modified that runs over at the Stafford Motor Speedway. Joining us, our guest co-host for the evening. He competes on the Volante Modified Racing Series, and he also runs an SK Modified over at the Waterford Speedboat. Jeff Rocco joining us. You also heard us say Max Zachem's going to join us a little bit later on, and Bob Englehart. Ricky, busy weekend over at Stafford Motor Speedway for you and the 54 crew?
Yeah, and it's now the 66 crew because Kaz, that's Kaz's number 66, so Eric drives the 66 down at the racetrack. But yeah, it was more busy for us prior to the racing than it was during the racing because the truck broke down on the way to the track, and I was driving around on scavenger hunt trying to get parts for the pickup truck so we could put that back together so we could even make it to the racetrack. But once we got to the track, we made it in time for qualifying, and then Eric put in a 5th place finish, so that was good.
So yeah, things didn't start out that great for you.
No, but that's typical racing, and something's always going to go wrong for you at some point or another. No matter how you look at it, though, it was better than some of the other guys that ended up wrecking pretty good up there.
And when it was all said and done, Ryan Priest would pick up his second victory of the 2014 season in the SK Modified. Ted Christopher would come home in second. Doug Colby, Keith Rocco, Jeff's brother, was 4th, and you heard Ricky say that Eric Burnt rounded out the top 5. Congratulations to the other winners over at Stafford Motor Speedway this past weekend. But right alongside our guest co-host for the evening, Jeff Rocco. Jeff, how are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Very welcome. First of all, let's talk about Saturday night over at the Waterford Speedbowl, and you're running the SK Modified.
Yeah, we went to Waterford Speedway. We didn't really have the finish we were hoping for. We had some issues going on with the car, and had a freak thing. My seat belts actually came unbuckled when I shifted with about 10 to go. So at that point, I decided to pull off. It was the safe and right thing to do.
Pretty happy with the race car and everything?
Yeah, Mr. Reuter has been giving me everything I need to compete, and we're trying to get everything together and in place to win, and that's what we're hoping for by the end of the season.
Okay, well, we'll take a commercial break, and then we'll continue our conversation with Jeff Rocco. Once again, he competes in some races on the Volante Modified Racing Series. He also competes at the Waterford Speedbowl and SK Modified, and we'll talk to him about how things are going for him this season so far. We'll also talk about that race yesterday at Seekonk Speedway for the Volante Modified Racing Series, which Richard Savory picked up the victory. Congratulations going out to him. We'll take our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll take your phone calls, 203-757-1320. We're back right after this.
Come to Shaler Acura and test drive the all-new redesigned RDX Sport Utility. Built for the size of your life. The all-new RDX reflects a new kind of luxury on your
This jungle's in my
You know, I noticed that in, I think last week's show.
Optimizes your time. A design that puts excellence ahead of itself. Come to Shaler
It's obscuring your
today
face.
and this exciting all-new SUV or
Oh, you
CUV
can see my face, I don't care.
Much better.
Shaler Acura, 345 Sector Street, Manchester.
Without our
Takes
number
at
one.
60 off I-84.
Nowhere else but Shaler Acura in Manchester will you find
Car got
these
ripped a couple
excellent
weeks ago, huh?
quality pre-owned certified Acura
Victoria.
automobiles. These Acuras are like
Yeah.
you, and a great way to enjoy
Still
the
bad.
Acura ownership experience. Whether it's 40 TSX, RDX,
There you go. You gotta be careful. Anything that we don't want said. Well, we
I'll
are.
break on this, but not that.
We gotta get used to that because, remember, you know what's
Trust
something
me.
to take out.
Center Street, Manchester.
Just getting used to it.
Yeah, Mike's, yeah, it's hard for me to get used to it too. Mike's, because sometimes our off-air
Mike's
shows.
on all the time now.
Do not necessarily
Totally.
reflect those of
If you're looking, that's all I said.
speedwaylinereport.com or vintagemodifieds.com.
This is,
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. This show is also being brought to you by Embroidery Works, Jim's Lawn Care Service, Grotto Restaurant, J.M. Montesano Auto Body of New Haven.
And your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Don't forget, we are streaming online at WATR.com. You can also go to SpeedwayLineReport.com and catch any of our shows in a rebroadcast, thanks to former modified driver Tom Ormsby, who gets my show up onto his website at SpeedwayLineReport.com. First guest of the evening, he's also our guest co-host, Jeff Rocco, runs over at Waterford Speedbowl, also runs the Valente Modified Racing Series and some events. Yesterday, you guys were at Seekonk Speedway, came home with a top 10 finish, I believe 6th.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. You know, we ran down 5th with about 10 to go, and I got to his bumper at the line. So, you know, a few more laps, we might have been able to pull off the top 5. But all in all, you know, we only had a few visits at that track, so, you know, happy with that finish.
Okay, and good car count there?
I think there was 25 cars. They started everybody. They didn't send anybody home, but that was actually on the short side for what we've been seeing in that series.
Seekonk Speedway, I mean, tough racetrack.
A lot of finesse, a lot of rhythm. It's not a horsepower track. It's more of a handling and driver's track, so I liked it.
Ricky, you've been a crew chief on cars that run over at Seekonk Speedway. Describe it from a crew chief's point of view.
gotta be careful with turn 3. 1 and 2 is not a problem for any of the drivers. It's just in 3 you just gotta handle yourself good getting into the corner, and that'll give you your run coming off the corner to make your moves and stuff that you gotta do. So I mean that's really the turn that you gotta be up on there.
Jeff, when you first raced at Seekonk Speedway, was there one part that you had a hard time getting used to racing there?
Yeah, the fact you never straighten out.
Right.
Yeah, you're constantly turning there. There's no straightaway, and you really got to take care of your stuff because if you beat your tires up, like it's a constant turn, so it really it multiplies that effect of bad handling.
Talk about your crew that works on your Valente Modified Racing Series car and the car owner.
Yeah, Mark and Mike Payne. I started my SK career with them guys, and you know they gave me the chance to drive this, and we ran about 5 races last year, and really starting to pull things together and have some good runs with it. And you know they stick behind me and they believe in me, and that's important for me being able to do what I need to do.
Someday, do you want to run maybe the full season on the Valente Modified Racing Series?
We're actually going to attempt that this year. You know, we've started off running every race, and that's our hopes right now. So that's the goal.
Okay, we're talking with Jeff Rocco. He runs an SK over at the Waterford Speedbowl. He also races on the Valente Modified Racing Series. We're talking auto racing here on Speedway Line Report Radio, 203-757-1320. Later on in the show, we'll talk to another driver that competes on the Valente Modified Racing Series. Max Zachem will join us. He came home with a 9th place finish yesterday afternoon at Seekonk Speedway. Getting back to the race yesterday at Seekonk. Good crowd?
Yeah, I looked up and the stands were full, and you know I think that's a testament to the competition that we have in that series. There's you know Scott Tapley, he runs a tremendous show over there and really has his act together, and it shows with the car count. I mean, you look at the guys, some of the guys coming over from the Wheeling Tour. There's some really big names, and it's really competitive right now.
Yeah, Ricky, I'll have to agree. Scott Tapley, even when he was over at Waterford Speedbowl as a race director, did a great job there. And of course, he's also the race director at Thompson Speedway, and of course, heading things up with the Volante Modified Racing Series. Class Act does a great job.
What are you guys on his payroll?
Well, no, but
No, I'm just kidding. No, he does a good job.
well, I'm speaking
No.
the truth. I mean, he does a good job.
No, he does a good job.
He gave me 50 before I gave him.
No, but yeah, he does a good job on wherever he goes and what he does there. So I mean, it just like Jeff said, it says a lot for the series when they're getting the car counts, they're getting the crowds. I mean, it's all about that.
Exactly, and I believe the next event for the Volante Modified Racing Series.
It's Thompson. It's in actually it's 3 weeks from this Thursday.
Okay, and Thompson's always a fun racetrack, 5/8 of a mile. You competed at Thompson before?
Yeah, I ran one race there, and to me, it's I don't have a lot of laps there. It's one of the tougher tracks. I mean, the speed is huge, and you're used to aiming for a white line around the bottom, and here you end up about 2 feet away from the wall. So it takes a little getting used to, but I liked it and looking forward to going back.
And now we'll shift gears. We'll talk about the Waterford Speedball a little bit. You've been running an SK Modified over there the last couple of years, been doing pretty well. How would you describe racing an SK Modified over at Waterford?
It's a different type of race, and it's a sprint race, and everybody's looking to get to the win in 35 laps. So it's a different style, but we're trying to make the most of it. I really like the longer races, but anytime you could sit in a seat is beneficial to me.
We're talking auto racing. Jeff Rocco, our guest co-host tonight. Phone number you need, 203-757-1320. Ricky.
So at the Waterford Speedway, when Keith got in a wreck, what'd you think to yourself? I might be out of a ride.
Yeah, that crossed my mind at first. I even stopped up in turns 1 and 2 where he was wrecked and seeing if he wanted to climb in the car and get a feel for it before the feature. But he already had his own ideas of going back and getting the Thompson car. I guess he was right with that decision.
I mean, was it a big decision at that point in time for your brother what to do after getting wrecked in the heat race?
Yeah, no, he's got a way of setting up cars, and it works, and he knew what he had sitting home in the garage, so I guess that was a less of a gamble than jumping into what I had.
And of course, he also won the late model race there Saturday night over at Waterford Speedball, driving Scott Fern's car. Talk about your race Saturday night in the SK.
Yeah, we had, I think we got to about 6th place and had some struggles with the car, but trying to salvage a decent finish there, and the seatbelts came undone, so we didn't get to finish the race. But all in all, it was a good show. I got to actually climb out and watch my brother there battle for the win, and it was pretty impressive to watch.
And what is it like battling your brother on the racetrack?
It's usually pretty rough. The few times we're side by side, usually there's sparks and dust flying off the wall. So I think we race each other probably harder than anybody else, and that's probably maybe just the competition from we always had from when we were kids.
And you guys are out of the same stables, driving for the same car owner there.
Yeah, Vin Beetle sponsors my brother, and he actually owns the car that I race. So we're all teammates, and we all work together. Me, Keith, and Ed Julio, and it's good to have a teammate like that.
Sure. Good car count for the SKs at Waterford.
Yeah, it's still early in the season. Hopefully they can maintain that all the way through, for national point reasons, and it's good for everybody to have a good car count.
And of course, there are other divisions. Looking down, of course, their mini stock division. I think they have about 18 or 19. The SK Lights also were on hand there this past Saturday night. What do you think of the SK Light division?
It's a good in-between division. It gives somebody a sense of what a modified is like, but it's not it's not the full boat. So you could get your feet wet and get a feel for the car and still be able to adapt to the horsepower.
Yeah, and of course the Strictly Stocks, they were also on hand. Good car count there as well. So you look through the car counts at Waterford, good. Even over at Stafford Friday nights, tip of the cap to their roots. They do a great job. Good car counts out in all of their divisions.
Yeah, Stafford has always, I think, been on the top of the game with the car count, and that's a testament to their facility and the way they run their show. They really got a top-notch act over there, and it shows with people in the stands and the car counts.
Absolutely. Once again, 203-757-1320. I'm Gary Danko, right alongside my co-host, Rocket Rick Rotundo. Jeff Rocco is our guest co-host tonight. He runs on the Volante Modified Racing Series. He runs an SK Modified, and any chance of maybe doing a late model down the road, maybe?
It's not anywhere in the grand scheme of things, but if it came up, I definitely wouldn't turn it down.
And of course, your brother the last couple of years has been running the late model, doing very well. Yeah. I mean,
He already casted a pretty big shadow with that, so I don't think I'll be getting in a late model anytime soon.
I mean,
He's throwing out a pretty big shadow everywhere he's going right now.
Yeah, he's tough to beat right now. He's been hot, and that's just because of all the hard work, though. It really shows.
right, and you know, we of course want to focus on you tonight in your racing career, and you've come along very well. Your brother doing very well since he's been racing. Of course, a champion at Waterford back when they were running the sportsman division. Of course, championships at Stafford and the SKs and Waterford Speedball, and of course, the national titles as well. Is something that you, in your racing career, you'd like to accomplish, maybe a championship or something along those lines?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd like to race as long as I can, but you know, I started really late. I really don't have that much seat time, and you know, it's been going on my third season. My brother's got more wins than I have starts, so as long as I could stay in the seat, I think I'm progressing pretty quickly, and I'd like to get there.
Now, have you learned a lot from your brother, more on the setup side versus the driving side?
Yeah, it's definitely shortened my learning curve as a driver. Being in the pit area with my brother, I learned what it takes to go fast on the setup side, and that, you know, watching them, you can learn a ton by sitting in the pit area just watching.
Rick?
Yeah, it's one of them things where even though you're not in the race car, good drivers can learn from crew chiefing and helping out in the situations, because what one driver does to make his car better, you see what it does on the racetrack, and you can watch the car and see how the car is reacting. So it makes a big difference, and it just shows the progression of other drivers, how they can progress even though they're not even driving the car. So that's a big thing to say about, you know, a lot of drivers to be able to do that.
And I'll tell you, you know, getting back about your brother Keith, I mean, they get wrecked in the heat race at Waterford on Saturday afternoon. They go back and got the Thompson car, had to start, what, dead last?
Yeah, he started pretty close to the back. I don't know if it was dead last, but it was deep in the field.
So, I mean, a big accomplishment to him and the crew. I mean, to do what they needed to do. When that car got there at the track, I mean, did they have to do anything to it to get it ready?
The throttle was actually hanging up at Thompson, and they haven't touched the car since then. So that was, you know, that was already in their minds when the car was on the way back, that they were going to have to take a look at the throttle linkage. You know, they got that figured out, and they were dismounting tires as fast as they could to get them on the car for the feature, because the car got back, you know, 15-20 minutes before they rolled out. So it was pretty impressive that they were able to accomplish what they did.
No question about it. Once again, 203-757-1320. We're with you every Monday night from 6 to 7:30 right here on Speedway Line Report Radio, and you can revisit any of our shows by going to speedwaylinereport.com. We'll take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue with Jeff Rocco right after this.
Where else but Shaler Acura in Manchester?
Mics are cold,
Visit
camera is hot.
Acura dealer and
Okay.
find out why Shaler Acura is
Well, you
the
can always edit things out if you need to.
Precision
Yeah, but I
Champion
can.
of Distinction Award winner.
I can
Awarded by
edit
Acura
it.
for
But I
outstanding
know
that's-
sales
yeah,
and
right.
service. And Shaler, their low-pressure courteous sales staff, makes owning a new or certified pre-owned Acura easy. Plus, Shaler Acura offers extended service and parts hours Monday through Thursday until 8 p.m. and Saturdays until 4 p.m. for your convenience. And now get the same award-winning service on any make or model.
Where did
Their
Mr.
state-of-the-art
Poole
modern
finish?
facility today, just minutes from Hartford. Take exit 60 off I-84, turn
Rock's
right
the
at
only
the
one in
end
the
of
field
the
that didn't get a
Go
W
2
yet.
miles on the left, or check out their great selection of new pre-owned vehicles online at ShalerAcura.com.
Oh, he was
Or reach
13.
them by calling 860-647-7077.
Hey, what was, I saw something on Facebook, Nicole was complete, did he,
The
I heard he
Embroidery
spun around.
Works is a
Okay,
full-service
but not in the
embroidery
feature.
firm. Supplies Central Connecticut with
Yeah,
custom
I heard he spun around in the feature.
and
Barely
printed
touched it.
items in
yeah, because she finished 8th, he was 7th.
My buddy that was watching, he said he got them back when he right around.
Promotional products.
What he
The
said.
Embroidery Works has what you're looking for.
Obviously, I
They
didn't see
offer
it, but
a
that's
wide
what they
selection of brand
said.
name
That
clothing
sounds
like
it.
Izod,
Oh, is
Outer
it?
Banks,
very
Harbor
impressed.
Square,
I think he
Palms
does it on
Creek,
purpose, 'cause
Lee
he
Falls,
just has to give him one of
Delta,
these.
Delta,
Keep going.
In addition, addition, promotional items such as duffel bags, mugs,
Make sure
letterhead,
mics are
and
still hot.
magnets,
Oh,
all
yeah.
I mean,
very
camera's hot.
custom
Gotta get used to
custom
that.
and printed apparel to outfit your workforce and promote your company. Thank customers and clients for the business.
All right, and then when we get back on, we're all gonna chime in together.
Important event
Didn't
to
Nicole get
family
into,
Call Embroidery Works at 860-747-9802. That's 860-747-9802. Now at 333 East Street in Plainville. That's 333 East Street, Plainville for Embroidery Works. Visit them online at embroideryworksct.com. Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler.
Your car, your choice, the Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Speedway Line Report Radio on 1320 AM. We're also streaming online at WATR.com and SpeedwayLineReport.com. Our guest co-host for the evening, Jeff Rocco, right alongside Rocket Rick Rotundo. We're talking auto racing. We'd love to talk to you at 203-757-1320. And so, Jeff, how much time do you spend, say, at the race shop just for your SK Modified? If everything goes all right.
Usually it's 1 or 2 nights of preparation if the car comes home without any scratches. But I try to split the time between that and the MRS car when, you gotta assess what you have at the end of the race weekend and then go from there.
Are you feeling pretty confident with, let's say, the MRS car that you can definitely win on the Volante Modified Racing Series?
Yeah, I mean, I finished 4th at Waterford and Seekonk, another 5 or 10 laps I would have had another top 5. So I think on a given night, if I hit everything right, we have a chance at a win.
Describe for the people listening to us on WATR 1320 or SpeedwayLineReport.com or even on the YouTube guys' material, the difference between the NASCAR Wheel Modified Tour and the Volante Modified Racing Series.
I think it's just politics, to be honest with you. I mean, NASCAR has been around for such a long time, and they got a way of doing things, and it's way more strict. Where, from what I see, the Volante Modified Series, it's more welcoming. They really work with you. They want you to race, and they'll do anything they can to help you, get on the track. Whether it's for instance, I had a valve train problem at Seekonk, and the the tech inspector actually came over and helped me fix the car to get back on the racetrack, and that's just something that you would never see in the NASCAR series.
Ricky, your thoughts?
NASCAR Modified Tour is a very difficult division. They make it harder than I think it has to be for what it is. It's a weekly series that doesn't race every week. They race, moderately here and there, and they have a 13 or 14 race schedule over the course of the season. And unfortunately, it's like they think that they're cup. And they just put all the pressure on all these guys that aren't making near the money that everybody else is in the higher up divisions, and they expect the guys in this division to be spending all the money with this and to do all that. Just like the Cup, they're talking about changing the motors to, reduce the horsepower to save money. How does that save money? I still don't understand how all the stuff that they do saves money.
I agree. I totally agree
And
with
the
you.
Wheel and Modified Tour, we're going to switch to the spec motor. What are they going to do with all the other motors that they have? It's just one of them things. So it doesn't make any sense to race in the division. You have to have money to throw away.
Jeff, what's your thought about spec engines?
When you're at that level, like I said, or like Ricky said, I think it's irrelevant. You're already spending so much money on crew licenses, and there's not. I don't think there's one team in the pit area besides my brother went to this past race without a double-decker trailer. I mean, the money that they're spending, a spec engine is not going to make or break a team. So it's kind of more of a hassle than anything.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it is. It's just like, because now you have to get a couple spec engines, then you have to kick your other ones off to the curb, and everybody that's coming into the division that they say it's cheaper for them. Who do you got coming into the division? It's just, to me, they make it harder than it has to be to go racing. And, the Volante Modified Series, it reminds me a little bit of back in the day when Stafford used to run the SKs and the Modifieds on the same night. When they used to have a packed house at Stafford Speedway when they did that. And that's kind of what it is, where it's the Modifieds and they just go around to all the regular tracks where you don't need to have the quick fills, you don't need to have all this other stuff and whatnot, to where it's just the same kind of rules like when you go there for a regular Friday night SK. You know, they check your car and everything else, you're good to go. It's minor stuff. Oh, fix that later on. You know, not if something is bad, they're gonna have you fix it before you go out there. Seat belts or something like that. If it's anything safety, 100%, they'll make you fix it. Anybody will. But if it's something stupid or anything like that, the Wheel and Modified Tour, they don't even let you on the racetrack for practice. You know, it's just difficult.
Jeff, if you were a tour director on a series, whether it's the Valente Modified Racing Series or the Wheel Modified Tour, what would you like to see them maybe take away, or what would you add as a tour director?
I would probably, be a little less strict on the things that don't matter. That their rules are so strict, and you drive into the gate at a Valente Series race, and they come over. The series director comes over and shakes your hand and says, "Thanks for coming," and that means a lot. I mean, you don't see that on the NASCAR Wheel and Tour. And I know it's they're getting paid and that they have a job and they don't need to do that, but it goes a long way.
Yeah, no question about it. Ricky, want to add to that?
No, it's just, I mean, there were so many things, because I didn't do the tour last year, because I got fed up with it the year prior, but I finished my commitment I had with Eric and Bob Caton there to finish the year with everything there, so I did that. And then I told them that I was, taking the year off next year and not doing the tour, because it was just too much of a headache. You go to, like we went to Monadnock, there was 24 cars and 23 officials, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, we're in the pits 20 minutes into practice because they didn't tech our car yet. We can't go on to the racetrack, we're over here, and then the very next week, they're yelling at us because we weren't ready. How could we be ready when you didn't tech the car? And I spoke up there in the meeting because I kind of speak my mind a little bit.
Yep.
And the other guys wanted to say something, but they didn't want to get, a hair across any of the guys that are there.
Sure.
But I don't care, I just speak the truth. We would have been on time if you guys did your job. But they get on us about them being late. It was just, I just had enough after that instance there and everything else. I'm like, I'm finishing our deal and that is it.
I remember going, back when it was the Winston Modified Tour, of course, the Fellow Light Tour, and, going back some years ago when you would get a big car count for, let's say, the Winston Modified Tour, and they went to 25 tracks during the course of a season, and they would run IRP, and they would run several other racetracks. I mean, yeah, the tour, from what it was, it's not what it was at one time.
I think there's a couple things they can do. For one, they can make a tire rule. I mean, Ricky, how many sets of tires are they getting in the weekend on the?
Well, see, there's the tricky part again. You're allowed to buy 10 tires, but you can go to Hoosier and get other tires and practice with them. But they don't really check when you go out for practice. So theoretically, you could practice on, because it's like when we used to do it, we didn't get new tires, but we would practice on the couple-week-old tires, because they're not checking it for the 10 tires that you bought. But if you went to Hoosier, you could have bought 2 other sets of tires and practiced on them for the whole practice.
Yeah, so I mean, that's one thing right there is make a tire rule. I mean, that's what kind of deters people away is if you have to be, the only way you can be competitive is if you have to buy 3 sets of tires, that's going to scare people away right there. And, crew licenses are $300 now. Just all the little things that they could draw a car count with are killing them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just like your brother. I mean, your brother's only doing a limited thing with the tour. That's like the worst thing you could do because you got to pay all them licenses, you got to pay all the fees and everything else to run that little bit that you're going to run. It makes it so hard for the guys to do this because, it's like we're talking about things about making it easier. What if you only want to do the local shows? You don't want to go to Bristol and all the mother, like Loudon and stuff like that. And you just want to do the local stuff. It just makes it so much harder because you got to spend all that money just to run a few races.
And there's only 14 races as it is on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour.
Right, there's only 14 races, and you guys, average out $320 per crew member for 14 races. That's how much you got to pay. basically per race.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have an SFI rated seat now, which is, you know, a crazy amount of money. I mean, they can make a rule where if it's a track a half mile or less, you don't need one. You know, I can see it at Bristol and Loudon and stuff like that, but those things really deter people away from attracting a bigger car count.
And they can't say that it has to be an SFI thing, because I mean, that's the Volante Modified Series doesn't have to have that. And I mean, there's other late models and things like that that don't have to have that. They go that's, you know, good speeds and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's just a lot of things that they make a lot more difficult, and they want people with money only just about on the tour. They want people they want to see the stackers pull up. They want somebody with 2 cars, and then when you want to get your second car out, they won't let you.
Right.
You know, I've seen that a ton of times where somebody would get into an accident or something, and they're like, no, you can fix it. You break a motor. Nope, you can't use your backup car. You have to change the motor. So they'd have to take their motor out of their other car and put it into this car to go back out on the racetrack. It just doesn't make sense. We don't have that many guys to do this kind of stuff. And it's in one night. Everything's in one night. Well, not everything, but like when they go there the 23rd.
At Stafford, right.
That's going to be in one night. And I've seen it before where the guy would break a motor and they wouldn't let him use the backup car. It just doesn't make sense.
Okay, we're going to get to our next guest in just a couple of minutes. Appreciate Jeff Rocco coming in as our guest co-host, and Jeff, good job this year. I mean, even going back to when you started running SK Modified, you've had some great runs along the way.
Yeah, I think my first season I had 1 win and like 9 top 5s and, you know, 6 top 3s. So it was to break into the series like that and break into racing, because I haven't raced anything since a go-kart, you know, 7 years ago. It was a great way to come aboard, and you know, everything's starting to escalate from there. And you know, racing on the Valenti series with the competition that we're with, Zegedy and Bots and Dior and Pennick, they're just a super talented bunch of guys, and,
Sure.
and it's great to run with people like that.
You also ran a Legends car back, going back, I don't know, 2005, maybe?
Yeah, I ran a handful of races with that, and I was kind of funded out of my own pocket, and kind of showed on the racetrack. We were, you know, lack of funding, it's tough to go fast, but some of our other opportunities came about, and I credit my brother for that. I mean, he opened up a lot of doors for me just from the success that he had.
Sure. Rick?
Who had a better rookie season at Waterford Speedboat, you or your brother?
My brother won 1 race his rookie year. I actually had more top 3s than he did, but you know, he's done so many big things that since then it's tough to compare.
I know, I just wanted to show everybody that you know exactly what all the stats are.
And I'm sure Sid is listening, so I'm sure he'll, and of course Sid DiMaggio does a great job with, you know, keeping track of all of his stats. And of course, Sid's View, you can catch a lot of his stuff from all the action at Waterford Speedboat. Now, do you actually go back and watch all the Sid stuff, Jeff?
Yeah, it's funny, whenever you have some downtime, I'm probably sure every racer does the same thing. They always click on Sid's View, and it's probably more entertaining than any TV show out there or any other sitcom. I mean, it's just, when you're a racer, that's what you like to watch. You like watching racing information. And
Sure.
I don't watch them all the time, but I thought one of the funniest I watched is when Diego, they brought their car over to the shop and dropped it off in the shop, and it still had the camera in it. Because their shop is right next door. They picked up the car and drove it all the way over to, they're like, wait a minute, the camera's still in there, and it was still rolling in their shop.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, with that being said, hiya! We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to another young driver. Started out quarter midgets, he went to Legends, and he's been running on the Volante Modified Racing Series, and he's had some good finishes. Max Zachem, he's going to join us next.
Market for a new Acura? There's only
One of my buddies sent me a text.
Shaler
I hope you ain't planning on going on the tour anytime
Shaler
soon.
is Connecticut's first Acura dealer. Shaler offers the
Oh,
greatest
really?
selection of new
Yeah, it was on
and
Bash.
pre-owned Acuras. Shaler Acura also
bring it on
offers
themselves.
extended hours for parts and service. Open until 8 o'clock Monday through Thursday, and till 4 o'clock on Saturday.
That's funny, that Volante Modified Series, that all happened because they closed down Claremont.
Or visit them on the web at
Because they closed
ShalerAcura.com.
down Claremont, that
Nowhere
happened.
else but Shaler Acura.
going to Road America in 2 weeks.
We talked about that. Because you're working for a guy who wants
Yeah,
it, right?
Certified
Oh, yeah, that's good
from
stuff.
Shaler
That's-
so satisfying. Every
Absolutely.
certified Acura from Shaler goes through a 150-point inspection and comes with a 7-year or 100,000-mile powertrain.
Now, have you ever road race
Plus,
doing
save
any
your
type
monthly
of...
payments with low finance rates.
Nope.
Nowhere else but Shaler
So we'll
Acura,
come back, we'll just
345
touch on
Center
some
Street,
things with
Manchester.
Jeff, then we'll,
Call
in the meantime, you can get Max on the phone.
647-7077, or visit them on the web at ShalerAcura.com.
Okay there, Mr. Grace?
Shaler Acura, Manchester.
Hey, you...
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura of
Your car, your choice. The Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Of course, the YouTube guy, Robert Baggett, is in the house. He had some great action from Stafford Motor Speedway this past weekend. And of course, Rowan Pennick really went on his roof, Jeff, at Stafford on Friday night in the SK.
Yeah, I caught the tail end of it when he was sliding down the track upside down, but I actually saw one of his cars over at Barker's a few weeks ago that he flipped, so he's flipped more than anybody else wants to, for sure.
Yeah, no question. And of course, there was somebody had a picture of it on Facebook of the car starting to go on its roof as well. But we talked to the YouTube guy, Robert Baggett, and I believe, Robert, you got all that action, right?
I caught the tail end.
You caught the tail end of it, okay. All right, we're working to get Max Zachem on the line here, but in the meantime, when we were on commercial break, you're going where?
Going to Road America in 2 weeks in Wisconsin. I work for a SVRA team. It's vintage road racing, and they have an event out there.
Now, what do you do over there, fabricating?
Yeah, we fabricate and work on the cars, and when you go to the track, I crewed a car in Sebring this past January, and I put more modified parts in that car than there is anything else, and we went down there and broke the track record, so
That's pretty good.
off to a good start with the team.
So, driver, crew chief, so you're really getting all angles of it, and you're doing something, you love auto racing, and working full-time on race cars.
Yeah, it's easy to get up and go to work in the morning when you do something you love, for sure.
Now, how did that all come about?
More of a racing connection, Pettit was doing some of his motor work for him, and I had met the guy the past winter, and before that I was doing welding, so in the winters we'd get laid off, and I made a contact with him in the off season, and one thing turned into another, and I ended up working there.
Okay. All right. Now we're going to get our next guest on the line. He's actually already on the line. We're ready to go with Max Zachem, who now joins us. Max, how are you? Doing very well. Of course, Jeff Rocco is our guest co-host tonight. Of course, Rocket Rick Rotundo in the studio, as always. We've got the YouTube guy, Robert Baggett, is here. And, of course, Tom Graves, who runs the board for us. So let's talk about how things are going with you on the MRS series in 2014.
Well, we've had a pretty good start. This is my best start so far this year. We got some new things going. I got a different shock and spring package, brake package, and everything's working out well. We're in the top 5 in points so far, and really looking forward to the rest of the year.
And let's talk about your race yesterday at Seekonk Speedway, top 10. Take us through the day.
Well, we had a good car in practice, and we had a real good car in the heat race. Richard Savory opened up a lot of doors, and I came from 7th place and ended up 2nd in the heat, which helped with some bonus points. And well, we played the weather card a little bit after we redrew 2nd, and I was thinking it was going to rain. It was sprinkling quite a bit when we were about ready to go over the scales, and a lot of dark clouds came over, and the rain cloud kind of bit me in the butt because the sun came out and didn't tighten the car up enough, and we ended up coming home 9th.
Rick?
Hey, Max, just wanted to touch on a few points first. What type of chassis do you run?
I run a Troyer car, and I got a Bob Bruno 23-degree motor in it as well.
And what are some of the sponsors that you have?
Doug Dunleavy with Dunleavy's Truck and Trailer Repair, Joe Gibbs Race Driven Oil, New England Race Fuels, John Holland, Broadbrook Heating and Cooling, Cliff Nelson with Bruce Bacta, Draco Springs, Robbie Fuller became a close friend of mine, and I got so many other little sponsors that are really great.
Yeah, it's good. I just always try to get all the sponsors and stuff out there and whatnot. Yeah, no problem. And during the break there, Jeff was talking some smack about you, I'll tell you. No,
Don't believe
you-
everything you hear.
Yeah, that's all false. Of course, the YouTube guy would have got it, but he knows to edit some things out, which, of course, he's been doing that now for a while now. But anyways, Jeff, questions for Max? You compete with him on the Volante Modified Racing Series. Did you guys ever have any problems on the racetrack?
No, not yet. Hopefully that day never comes. Everybody's pretty respectful out there, and that's one thing that's great about running that series is, you know, I think how many laps did we run green there, Max, on Sunday? Yeah, I think probably more than most guys would probably want it. They were probably hoping for a yellow, but I think it was a 60 lap green flag run, and that just goes to show that everybody's pretty respectful out there.
Max, what do you like? Talk about Seekonk Speedway. Jeff described from his point of view Seekonk Speedway. Let's get your thoughts on that.
Concrete Palace. There's nothing like it. The third mile, high banked. It's a big momentum style racetrack. You can run side by side there. It's a great show. There's not a bad seat in the house either for the race fans. And, you know, we run there 3 times a year. It's become one of the staples with the MRSs like Monadnock and a few other places. You know, I believe it's one of the best modified racetracks in New England.
You agree, Jeff?
Yeah, I like it. It's very wide, so there's you can definitely race there, and there's room to pass, and it's definitely a great track.
Yeah, that track there, it's a driver's track is what that is, because like Jeff was saying earlier, you're in a constant circle the whole time. So when you got to make a pass on somebody, you really got to keep your momentum up, but you got to get the car just right to come off the corner and turn it even more than you've been turning it the whole time. It's a really driver's type of track.
On the line with us, Max Zachem, who drives the number 20 on the Volante Modified Racing Series. And Max, talk about, we heard about what chassis you drive and your engine builder, but talk about the people, your crew members.
I got a lot of great guys. Sean Rodzik has been my main man. He lives only a couple minutes from the house, and we rebuilt the car from the ground up this winter, all the way from rewiring it to putting a body on it and everything, and he's been great. Wayne Muffy Wildermuth, you know, he's the Sparta of the stars, as we call him. He's got a nice page on My Race News called One Eye Open. You can read his story and blog. Steve Merritt, he's a salesman from my father's liquor store. He's been involved with my racing for many years, whether it was a crew guy or a sponsor as well. Mike Grimaldi, who's a fireman every Friday night at Stafford. He's also a fireman by trade. Comes and helps me out. Real great guy. You know, I got a lot of great people on the crew that help me out each week.
Okay. And there again, I asked Jeff the same question I'm going to ask you. You spend a lot of time at the race shop, even though there's nothing maybe wrong with the race car, just getting it ready for the next race. And what are some of the other things that you may tinker with on the car?
Absolutely. The competition this year on the MRS is unbelievable. You know, you got Justin Bonsidor running the 21 for Art Berry, and Todd Zegedy driving Kevin Stewart's 85. So that makes it even stiffer from where it was last year. And there's always something you can do, whether you're just looking at it, trying to see if there's something you can make better, you know, going over the valves in the motor or playing with the tires, you know, even down to cleaning the wheels and cleaning out of the car. You know, you find the little things to be 115% ready at the racetrack, and you need to be. That way you're not chasing the little stuff, and when you go to the track, you can concentrate 110% on your race setup.
Yeah, it's like you get a rain out and everybody will say, oh, you got the week off. There's always something to do on the race car. There's always something to do with the race shop, whether it's the pit box, whether it's the trailer, whether it's the car. There's always something to do with the racing.
Absolutely right there, and racing is not a sport, it's a way of life, and even during the wintertime, you know, you take Christmas and New Year's off maybe, or Thanksgiving or whatever, but you're right back out there as soon as you can, because you know the competition's out there, so you have to be out there too.
Now, Max, we have a couple weeks off. Do you plan on going to the Lee Speedway this weekend for the Tri-Track Series?
Absolutely. Dick Williams is a great guy, part of the racing guys, and Jim Schaefer. You know, if it wasn't for them in modified racing, we certainly wouldn't have what we have. You know, those guys put in a lot of effort in each week and trying to put this series on, and I hope a lot of the competitors show up for it. They're really sticking their neck out trying to make it happen. And, you know, they're not trying to compete against all these different series. They're just trying to make it better. And Mother's Day will be a unique event, and I'm real excited for it.
No, I only been there once, but it's probably the worst place on tires that I've ever been to. What's your opinion on that?
Absolutely right. I ran Legends car there for many, many years, and you could drive as hard as you could because you run those hard street life tires on them cars, and you only run 20 to 25 laps usually. Where driving the modified, man, and I always use the example that it feels like you could take your hand across the racetrack, cut your hand open. It's just so wore out. But I think it's going to be a good show. You're going to have a one tire change for the race, so I think it's going to be 250 lap sprints theoretically. You know, depending on cautions and whatnot. I think they'll put on a better race.
Now, are they giving us 2 tires or 1 tire? Do you know what they're expecting?
I believe it's 1 tire. Usually, for the first open show, they allow you to have 9 tires. You know, your 4 to practice on, your 4 to time trial on, and then you have your 1 change.
Yeah, 10-4 on that. That's for then. Even that 1 tire is probably not enough for 100 laps.
It'll give it a little bit of, variable for the different people. And whether you come in at lap 20 or you come in at lap 90, I mean, there's going to be probably 100 different strategies out there, and I think it'll make an exciting race.
Now, do you have any particular strategy in mind, or is that going to be a race day decision?
Day decision, absolutely. Whether you have a plan or not, caution comes out at a different time. That might change your plan of how your race car's handling.
Yeah, I know. I already got mine in mind. I'm just trying to scope out my competition.
Yeah, you can go there as a racer and you can have plan A ready, but by time the situation comes on, you're on double C or double D by the time because you went through so many different plans in your head already.
Now I gotta ask you guys. I'm sorry, go ahead, Max. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just agreeing with Ricky on that, 100%.
And I'm not gonna put you guys on the spot. I'm gonna start with you first, Max. Is there somebody on the Volante Modified Racing Series that he's pretty hard, maybe hard to pass, or every time you get side by side, you may question yourself. And there again, we're not trying to throw anybody under the bus. That's not where I'm going with this. But who are someone, let's put it this way, the tough competitors to maybe get around?
Your tough competition, they're just hard to get around because they're fast. There's not really, any type of blocking mentality here. There's guys that are going to go 110% each week. And, like I said earlier, you got Todd Zegety, Rowan Pennick, Justin Bozidor, all these guys that run the Wheeling Tour coming over to run the MRS. And you already had Chris Pastriak. Jeff yourself is running really well this year. There's plenty of other guys that run this series that do a heck of a job. And, it makes for great racing. I think it's the best series going right now.
And that's what Jeff had said earlier.
Yeah, I would agree with Max that there's no struggle to pass somebody because they're in the way. It's a struggle to pass somebody because they're fast.
Okay. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue with Max Zachem coming up a little bit later on. Bob Englehart. He loves short track racing. He is a big fan at Stafford Motor Speedway. He came out with a book. We're going to talk to him about that and much more on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio. We're back right after this.
Where else but Shaler Acura in Manchester. Visit Connecticut's first Acura dealer and find out why Shaler Acura is the state's only 14-time Acura Precision Team Dealer of Distinction
From your bus
Award.
rock.
Awarded by Acura for outstanding sales and service.
No, I know Max.
Shaler, their low-pressure courteous sales staff, makes owning a new or certified pre-owned Acura easy. Plus,
Max,
Shaler Acura offers extended service and parts hours Monday through Thursday until 8 p.m. and Saturdays until 4 p.m. for your convenience. And now get the same award-winning
You go with the
service
racetrack,
on any make
oh,
or
the
model.
caution goes out on lap like 20 or 25, we'll pit. Lap 36. Now what do we do? I'm not sure yet.
Off I-84, turn right at the end of the exit. Go 2 miles on the left, or check out their great selection of new or pre-owned vehicles online at ShalerAcura.com.
I thought Kenny was doing some stuff with Lucas Savage this year. He was supposed to. That deal now. Yeah, somebody else is going to drive the car in 5 races.
Yeah.
The Embroidery Works is a full-service
Yeah, he was
embroidery
supposed to
company
5 races.
supplying
On the MRL.
custom corporate apparel
Yeah, somebody else is
and
driving
imprinted
that.
items since 1998.
They taught him how to just the other day.
Screen printing, EMS workwear,
Those even
team
top
spirit,
ones,
custom
Savage.
clothing, or promotional
Yeah, and I
products.
read that in, I think, Karen Auto, Karen Rice's column.
They offer a wide
No,
selection
a couple
of
weeks
brand
ago.
new clothing like
But he was supposed to do
Outer
fun.
Banks, Harvard Square, Quarles Creek, Lee,
Has
Hayes,
it had a surface?
Delta, Jerseys, Pacific Headwear, and many more.
I didn't see him
In
over
addition,
Flash either.
promotional items such as duffel bags,
Well,
mugs,
Richie,
pens,
maybe
letter
get over there,
openers, and
I'll
magnets,
see
all
again.
bearing your custom logo. Use custom and printed apparel to outfit your workforce and promote your company. Thank customers and clients for the business. Equip your team or club to instill a sense of pride. How about an important event or family reunion?
Call Embroidery Works at 860-747-9802. That's 860-747-9802. Now at 333 East Street in Plainville. That's 333 East Street, Plainville for Embroidery Works. Visit them online at embroideryworksct.com. Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report.
Your car, your choice. The Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. A couple minutes left with Max Zachem, who runs on the Volante Modified Racing Series, coming off of a top 10 yesterday afternoon over at the Seekonk Speedway. Phone number you need tonight, 203-757-1320. We're streaming online at WATR.com, also SpeedwayLineReport.com, and you can go back and revisit any of our shows when you have the opportunity. Robert Baggett, the YouTube man, is in the studio, and of course, Rocket Rick Rotundo from R&R Fabrication, and he's also the crew chief on Eric Burns' SK Modified. Number 66 that competes over at the Stafford Motor Speedway. Jeff Rocco is our guest co-host. He runs an SK Modified at Waterford, and he also races on the Volante Modified Racing Series. Max, any chances of doing any Whelen Modified Tour races in 2014?
I'm going to make a few deals. I've been in contact with a couple people. I'd like to make something happen. I had a great run driving for Mike Smergilio. I can't thank Phil Moran and the two guys enough for giving me that opportunity last year at the World Series. It was grade A equipment, a lot of fun doing it, and I hope to do it again sometime.
Max, if you ever pick up a win on the Volante Modified Racing Series, you've been running very strong, so I'm sure a win is right around the corner. Anything that you may have that you for like a victory celebration that may be a little bit unique? I'm going to ask Jeff the same thing as well.
Actually, no. I just be so excited to finally do it. And the series is just so hard to do it in, and you got to have every single duck in a row to make it happen, and a little luck too. But it's just such stiff competition on the series, and when that day finally comes, I'll be thrilled.
Jeff, how about you? Anything special?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be enough Coors Light in the cooler that night.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know if you guys would do something on the racetrack, go backwards on the racetrack. I don't know if you guys can do donuts on the Volante Modified Racing Series.
Yeah, you probably could get away with it, but our tires are so precious for the following week that I don't think anybody would do that. But yeah, Coors Light is it.
Okay. Back on with Max. And Max, I mean, let's talk more about the Volante Modified Racing Series. Of course, you guys go to some good racetracks, Stafford, Thompson. Talk about some of the other tracks.
Well, I'm really excited for the rest of the schedule. We got a really good year coming up. We got the Tri-Track Series first, which is going to be real exciting, and then we go to Thompson. I'm really looking forward to it. We run well there last year. We had a couple of things happen. We ended up having a flat right front tire at the end of the race, one of them, and another race we ended up getting in a wreck with like about 10 laps to go, which cost us the top 10 where we ended up 12th. But I'm really excited to get back to the Connecticut tracks and also the rest of the schedule this year.
Yeah, and so far, 3 races, 3 different winners.
Yeah, that's what shows you about the stiff competition I was talking about. You got a lot of good guys running this series. It's going to be a real close, tight point battle, I believe, for the rest of the year. And if I was a race fan, I'd be going to see the Volante Modified Racing Series.
Jeff, I would agree with him on that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a track like Stafford, and you got my brother and Teddy and Ryan and Steve Massey and Justin Bonsignor. I mean, there's only a handful of guys that aren't running the Wheeling Tour that are also doing the Volante Racing Series on that night. So, I mean, it's the best, and it packs the stands, and it's a great show to see.
No.
Max, if there was one track that you would want to run, what would that be?
It'd either be Beach Ridge or Oxford. I got a lot of experience up there with Legends car, and we finished in the top 5 up there. really well. It's a momentum style racetrack like Seekonk and Monadnock as well. Those were the experience factor. I really like racing there.
Yeah, Beach Ridge, that's another one just like Seekonk over there where you gotta, it's another circle, you just gotta keep the momentum up there.
I can remember when the Wheeler Modified Tour used to run Beach Ridge. They ran Oxford at one point. So, getting back to, we were talking earlier, Max, about the Wheeler Modified Tour and, going back in the day of the Winston Modified Tour and even the Featherlight, of some of the racetracks that were on the schedule that are no longer on the schedule. I mean, they used to have like a 25 race schedule, and they used to go to some really, really good racetracks.
They did. I remember when my father spotted for Charlie Pastriak when he ran the Featherlight Modified Tour back then, and looking at some of the schedules and everything. And, I wish we could go back to some of them places, but it's really neat being on the MRS and running most of those racetracks, which makes this series unique and a lot of fun to run.
Okay. Well, Max, thanks for spending some time with us tonight on Speedway Line Report Radio. Once again, coming off a good top 10 finish yesterday. Good luck the rest of 2014 on the Volante Modified Racing Series.
Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Max Zachem joining us tonight. National news is about 15 seconds away. When we come back, we'll recap everything that has been taking place already on Speedway Line Report Radio. And then we'll get Bob Englehart all set to go to talk about his book. What is that book? Well, stay tuned. National news is next.
One of the greatest hits, plus local news, sports, and talk. This is 1320 AM WATR.
Locations for multiple whistleblowers surfaced.
We know the mics are cold. Video cold?
Healthcare system.
Okay. So what do we want to talk about?
Approximately 40 veterans.
You made the call for
I
business
turned it off.
after a newspaper
All right,
published
I'm going to shut her on.
Welcome back to the Speedway Line Report, presented to you by Shaler Acura.
Your car, your choice. The Auto Body Association of Connecticut.
Welcome back, everyone. Gary Danko here in our Waterbury studio. Our guest co-host, Jeff Rocco, Ricky Rotundo, also in our Waterbury studio. No, he's not in the studio at this time. He's actually out in the lobby talking on the phone, and that's okay. This show is also being brought to you by Jim's Lawn Care Service out of Cheshire, Connecticut. When it comes to maintenance and lawn care, Jim's Lawn Care can take care of your needs. So you can give them a call at 203-272-2054 for Jim's Lawn Care Service out of Cheshire. This show is also being brought to you by J.M. Montesano Auto Body Works. They're specialists in auto collision. All work is guaranteed. They're located at 390 Lombard Street in New Haven, Connecticut. You can give them a call at 203-865-1389 for J.M. Montesano Auto Body Works. Once again, specialists in auto collision, and all of their work is guaranteed. So if you are in and around the New Haven area and you happen to get into a fender bender, then why not stop by and see the good folks over at J.M. Montesano Auto Body Works. See John Montesano. He'll take good care of you. And, of course, John also runs an SK Modified. He'll be competing at the Waterford Speed Bowl. Don't believe he's up and ready to go at this point, but he should be ready soon to get over there to race on a Saturday night. Earlier, we heard from, of course, Jeff Rocco talking about things going on in his auto racing career. Of course, running the SK Modified at Waterford, running on the Volante Modified Racing Series. We also just heard from Max Zachem, who also has been doing very well on the Volante Modified Racing Series. Right now, we are going to get Bob Englehart on the line. He's an editorial cartoonist at the Hartford Courant, but he has come out with a book called Track Rat Memoir of a Race Fan. What is that all about? Well, we're all set to go with our next guest, who's all ready to go, Bob Englehart. Bob, good evening and welcome into the Speedway Line Report Radio.
Thanks, Gary. Glad to be here.
First of all, let's talk a little bit about your background. You love short track racing. How did it start for you being a race fan?
Well, it started when I was a kid. I mean, a little kid, and I was watching newsreels at the movies about racing. And I had, when I was 6 years old, I had rheumatic fever. I was in bed for a whole year, and I had nothing to do but to draw and paint. And I drew race cars and cowboys and Indians and circuses. And then my parents got divorced when I was 10 years old, and my mother married a man who was a race fan. His family was a race fan, his brothers, sisters. So we wound up going to the racetrack twice a week. Back in those days, they used to race twice a week in Fort Wayne, Indiana, on Saturday night and Tuesday night. And we would go, and that's when I really fell in love with racing.
Did you ever have the desire to drive a race car?
Yeah, but I'm a chicken.
Rick?
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. You do all the sketching and stuff for the Hartford County. Were you friends with Sean Kershane?
Sean was a great colleague, great friend, and very helpful in writing the book.
That's good. You know, it's good to see that, you know, you guys still touch base and collaborate and everything else like that. And that just goes to show you with the racing, everybody always stays with a tight family and everything else with the racing.
Well, I'm finding out that people are very supportive of each other and encouraging each other, and that's been one of the things I discovered that I really like. I mean, I've always been a spectator. I just sit in the stands and drink beer and watch the race, you know. But getting involved the way I have in interviewing drivers and owners and crew members, I have just found them to be welcoming and great people.
Do you have a favorite driver?
Yeah, but I don't want to say it because, you know, I'm supposed to be a journalist, right?
Okay, no, I can understand.
Neutral, but actually I have several drivers that I really like.
Any drivers that you don't like? You could say that as a journalist.
Seen Sprint Cup, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Kyle.
I was hoping you were going to say Keselowski.
Nah, I didn't. I'll tell you, in Sprint Cup, I like Carl Edwards.
Yeah, he's a class act. He's a class act.
But he's got personality and he enjoys racing. And you know, the other day when he was trying to wave off the cars because his left rear tire went down, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and then he ended up still getting it up into the wall, and then other cars got collected as well.
That's tough at 200 miles an hour.
Oh, absolutely.
Tire.
Didn't at Talladega one time he wrecked his car just before the start-finish line? He got out and ran across the start-finish line?
Yes.
Ricky Bobby.
I mean, you guys got personality.
I want to say, wasn't that when him and Keselowski got into that big wreck?
I believe so, yeah.
Pretty sure that's when it was. That was back a few years ago. Bob Englehart on the line with us is going to talk about his Track Rat Memoir of a Fan, a book that he wrote. So let's talk about, first of all, how long were you going to Stafford Motor Speedway?
Well, I moved to Connecticut from Indiana in December 1980 and started going to the track that summer in 81. Summer in 81. Pretty regularly.
So do you remember when the regular modifieds used to come in there on a Friday night, like when, you know, actually Jeff Bodine had already moved on and Ronnie Bouchard, I want to say, moved on. So when you came in at that time, who were some of the drivers in the modifieds?
Well, I started going to Riverside.
Oh, okay.
First track that I went to regularly because they had the amusement park and the kids would have fun at the amusement park as well as at the racetrack. But Reggie Ruggiero was the king of that track. I mean, I remember many races. Well, I remember one race in particular where he pulled off with a flat tire into the pits and came back like 2 laps later and wound up winning the race. And he used to do that stuff kind of regularly. He was kind of the first racing hero I met, or I kind of latched on to move to Connecticut.
Speaking of racing back in the day, you know, I was just thinking, if there's any promoters out there, I'd love to see an open competition show like they used to have back in the day. Run what you brung, any tire rules, any motor rules, anything goes, and make it a high-paying purse. And I think the car count would be astronomical.
It would be fun. I've often wondered what would it look like today if it was an open rule and anybody. I mean, you're right, race with your butt. Put as much money as you want into the car. We don't care. I wonder what it would cost. I bet it would be, I would say, prohibitive.
In the mid-90s, Waterford used to do that. We went down and we ran methanol. You know, Teddy Christopher ran plastic rims on his car to save the weight. I mean, we were doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's fun in itself.
Ryan Johnson and Jay Shea, who are the techies at the tech inspectors at Stafford, and it's an interesting chapter on cheating because when they were racing, they used to cheat like crazy, and that's why Stafford hired them because they knew all about cheating. And they have some great stories in there about using a fuel that burn out gaskets, and that they didn't know that was going to happen. And the tire softener that smelled so bad, they had to throw the tire. They were racing at Riverside. The tires smelled so bad they had to throw it into the river. That's one of my favorite chapters in the book.
Yeah, well, just like, I'm not trying to say anything about myself, but I'm one of the type of guys where I push the limit, and I like the gray area, and there's a few rules in that Stafford rule book because of me. You know, that's a little pat on my own back I'm doing right there, but I mean, that you're not trying, and you know, you got to be pushing that envelope. I mean, look at Jack and House.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, he's always, you know, in the trouble there, but I push the envelope, and I do. That's the only book I've ever read in my life is a rule book. That's it. That's all I ever read is the rule book.
Take a look at Track Rat, Memoir of a Fan.
Yeah.
You know, really quick, getting back to what you said, Jeff, you know, big open competition show. I can remember when they had that show at Stafford, and Jeff Bodine and Richie Evans, they came in, and they had the wings on the car. And and then I think Ronnie Bouchard driving the Hood Enterprise number 7, they had injectors in the car. It was a pretty wild night.
I mean, that alone puts people in the stands because they want to see how creative the driver's going to be. They want to see, you know, how crazy the cars are going to look, and that itself would draw in quite a crowd.
Oh, if they would do that now, look out what I could make on that.
Oh, I can imagine. I hope some of the track promoters are listening in tonight because you're right, Jeff. I think that would be pretty interesting.
Actually, Jackie had talked about doing it, and then, you know, I think he had put it in his brother's ear. So, you know, maybe if we get some push on it from the fans, maybe we can make it happen.
Sure, that would be neat. But let's back on with Bob Englehart. Bob, okay, let's talk about what gave you the idea to come up with writing a book, Track Rat Memoir of a Fan?
Well, I was at Thompson International Speedway for the first race of the season in 2008, and the Northeast Midget Association was racing their feature race, and Shane Hamlin wrecked and was killed instantly. And I'd never seen anything like that on a racetrack before. I'd never seen anyone die on a racetrack. I've seen plenty of wrecks, and, you know, I like thrills and spills, but this was so bizarre and so shocking that I thought, if I don't get to the bottom of this and find out why people risk their lives like this for fun, then I'm not going to be able to go back to the racetrack because it was so traumatizing. So that's what started me interviewing race car drivers and owners and crew members. And I talked to everybody I could talk to. And at the end of the season, I met Shane Hamlin's mother, Deb Marvulio. And I talked to her, and she told me all about Shane and why he raced. And that just brought everything together. It was a moment of closure for me, and I thought, man, I've got to write about this. And the more I wrote about it, the more I thought, wow, this is a book. So, and then my wife said, she said, you know, you ought to write about yourself and how you became a fan. So I did, and so it's like two stories in one. It's about racing, and it's about how I became a cartoonist and artist, and through my childhood, my crazy family, and my experiences. So it's, you know, 2 books for the price of one.
Go ahead, Rick.
I didn't have that.
How many pages are in this book? Is it 250?
252 pages. There's photos, and it's a quick read, I think. And you know, you said that you never, the only book you ever read was a rule book. A lot of people are reading this book who haven't read a book in a long, long time, and they're enjoying it.
You said there's pictures in it, so it's right up my alley.
Yeah.
And of course, that's Rocket Rick Rotundo, of course, my co-host. Of course, Ricky's with me every Monday night here in Speedway Line Report Radio. How long did it take you to do the book?
Well, you know, that's funny. Look, I joined the trial cartoons for the Hartford Current, and I draw the cartoon I drew this afternoon will be in the newspaper tomorrow. But with books, man, books take forever. It took, I saw the wreck in 2008, and so here it is 6 years later. It came out April 1st it's on Amazon Amazon.com. And so that's 6 years. But it took, a couple of years to research it, a couple of years to write it, maybe 3 years to write it. Then I started sending it around to agents, and that takes time. So everything takes time with the book. I know Wally Lamb, and it takes him, sometimes 11 years between books, I think. But it takes a long time, and but I like the process. And you have to, if you're going to write a book, you have to like the process.
Now, for some of our fans listening, if they wanted to read this book, where can they purchase it?
On Amazon.com right now. I'm working on a website. I don't have a website up yet, but you can get it on Amazon.com. It's also on Kindle. It's paperback, 252 pages paperback, also on Kindle. And so it's out there. I'm an Amazon.com writer.
Talk about the front cover of the book. I got a chance to see it when I was up at Stafford a few weeks ago for the Spring Sizzler when you were out at the pit party selling the books. But talk about that front cover.
My son took the photo. My son took most of the photos in the book. There's one that I took, one Deb Marvulio took, one that my wife took, but my son took the rest of the photos. He's a professional photographer. And it's the Boyden car. It was a SK Light. He's since moved up to SKs. But we were walking through the pits, and I was thinking that I wanted to make a design that would be kind of like the Whelen Modified Tour design on their logo. And so we saw the car. It was a pretty car. And I told my son, I said, take a head-on shot of that car, will you? I think I might use it. So he just kind of ducked down there and took a shot of it. And it just turned out to be so fantastic that I didn't make the design. I just decided to use the car on the cover. And it's striking. It's such a beautiful car.
Talk about some of the other pictures that are in the book.
I got pictures of different drivers, and Sean Foster's in there, Woody Pitcat, Ted Christopher, a bunch of drivers, mostly regulars at Stafford. It's my favorite track, and it's Waterford's the closest track, but Stafford is probably my favorite track. I do like Thompson, but Thompson takes me an hour and 15 minutes from where I live, and Stafford is like 45 minutes away. Waterford is a half an hour. I'm more into Stafford.
So you're a diehard fan. You're at Stafford every Friday night?
Well, not every Friday. I wish I could. I have so many other obligations that I can't get there as much as I would like, believe me. I wish I could be there every Friday night.
How long have you been with the Hartford Courant as the editorial cartoonist?
33 and a half years. Man, 33 and a half years, and it went by in a flash.
Any
other questions for Bob?
No, that's a long time to be the cartoonist and to work at that, and it's like when you're writing a book. We talked to other people that have written books. How many pages was the book before you cut it down to 252 pages?
I don't know. To me, it's just a continuing thing of writing and rewriting and rewriting. But it was certainly more than 252 pages. I took out a couple chapters that just slowed the book down, and then I had enough stuff left over. I was thinking, well, I think I'll do another memoir of just, not about racing, just about me. But I don't know. I just don't know. I would love to write another book. I'd like to write a novel. I'd like to write a novel based on racing. And as a matter of fact, last time I was at Stafford, some of the fans they didn't say anything, but they kind of made me think, wow, maybe I should do a novel, a thriller involving racing, So, I don't know. I'm just thinking about it right now. It's how these big projects form. They just start out as a little plot.
You know what I would think would be neat? I mean, as we mentioned, you're the editorial cartoonist at the Hartford Courant. Maybe putting something in one of the souvenir magazines, whether it's at Stafford or other racetracks you go, of putting like a little bit in there of drivers or maybe even crew members of making a cartoon of them and their race car. And you guys know where I'm going with that, right? I think it would be pretty neat.
and to have some fun with it.
Exactly, right. I mean, maybe one driver got into an argument or a fight over something on the racetrack, and then the following week, maybe you could come up with something and put a little, a little slogan underneath there, or capture it with something like that.
I'd do one with you in it.
That would be fine, but there again, I'm not a driver. But of course, Ricky being a crew member and Jeff being a driver, you could have another media person in there, maybe doing an interview with a driver or something like that. But did you ever think about maybe doing something like that?
Never really did. I of course love to draw cartoons, but I kind of just only want to draw cartoons for the Hartford Current. That's just my focus right now. But I don't know, it's something to think about.
I know, because sometimes, when you look in the papers now, do you do the ones, like the President of the United States and with maybe one of his staff members? Is that the kind of stuff that you do for the Current?
Exactly what I do.
Okay, yeah, okay. Let's recap the book, Track Rat Memoir of a Fan. How much does it cost? Where can people get it?
You can get it on Amazon.com. It's discounted there. It's $16 something there. But the book retails for $20 generally, and if I'm doing a personal appearance, I'm signing them, and I don't have a personal appearance scheduled for right now, but I'll be back at Stafford Motor Speedway during the summer at various events, and probably some of the other tracks. I haven't really talked to them yet, but I'll be doing personal appearances at events.
And will you reach out to any other racetracks? I mean, can people maybe see up at Thompson maybe this year, or maybe at Waterford?
Yes, I will, and I'm not sure which dates yet. The book just came out April 1st, and frankly, I've been a little bit stunned. I mean, to just hold it in my hands after 6 years of working on this book, and then hold it in my hands, I'm a little bit stunned. It's like holding a new baby, It's like I'm looking at it, thinking, oh my God, this is my book.
Okay. What did Sean Corshane think of it?
Oh, he likes it. Sean's been very helpful and supportive through this whole thing. He's offered a lot of information, and he's a wealth of material, as you know.
Absolutely.
You know Sean.
Absolutely. Known Sean for many, many years. I remember when he first came up to Riverside Park Speedway to cover action, and even over at Stafford Motor Speedway, and of course does a great job. You can check out all of his stuff at Race Day CT. I know you know that, Bob, but anybody tuned in, Race Day CT, he's always up on the news, and if he doesn't know the answer, he knows where to go get the answer to any of the questions.
Great journalist.
Okay. Well, Bob, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Once again, Track Rat Memoir of a Fan. Bob Englehart is the author of that book, and we appreciate you spending time with us tonight. All right, thank you so much. Bob Englehart joining us tonight on this edition of Speedway Line Report Radio, and I know, there was a big line of people that were actually getting the book at the pit party a few weeks ago at the Sizzler.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we've had a few guys that put out the books with the racing and stuff like that. It's always good that, something out there with the racing in it, so it's always a positive.
Especially when it's short track racing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Bones Borsia wrote a couple books, the Richie Evans one and the one about Ed Flimke, and they're phenomenal. He's a great writer, and anybody who hasn't read those, I really recommend it.
Absolutely, and of course he also did one on Bug Stevens as well, and the one on Tony Stewart, and doing a lot of stuff. I think he did one on Simpson. I think that was one of his first books back, 9, 10, 11, 12 years ago. Maybe even longer than that. But, of course, growing up with Bones in Southington, known him for a long time. I remember when he first started writing, wrote for him and Mike Atascavage. Mike Atascavage was the photographer, and Bones did the writing for, like, the Southington News, and then he moved on to Gator Racing. At that time, New England Speedway scene, he moved on, and then got doing stuff with Stock Car Racing magazine. And anyone that knows Bones, you know his career, and he's done a great job. And of course, so we all grew up going to Plano Stadium watching your dad and many others there. And I can remember on the open shows, I was actually a Ron Van Ness fan, and who drove the VO, and he was kind of like a Ronnie Wyckoff fan. And he didn't know me, and at that time Bones was kind of pretty skinny at the time. That's how he got the name Bones. And he says, "Oh, who's this guy yelling for Ron Vaness?" He really didn't quite know me at that time, and then we got to know each other over the years and became good friends. So definitely does a good job. So that's going to pretty much wrap things up here. Got a couple of minutes left. So what are the plans now? Getting for the Waterford car.
The Waterford, we're not going to be. I won't be running that car for about 3 weeks. This coming week we'll be at Lee Speedway, and then the following week I'll be in Wisconsin at Road America. So tomorrow we'll put brakes on the dually for the ride up to Vermont, and I'll keep trucking along.
How many people where you work full time now at the shop work there?
There's about 20 people at the whole facility, and you know, there's some girls in the office and shipping and receiving. We got a motor guy, a couple machinists, and the rest of the guys work on the floor on the race cars.
Now, do they ever get a chance to come and watch you race?
You know, they haven't yet, but they talked about it. One pretty cool thing, our SVR team is actually going to the Thompson Speedway on the road course in June, so it'll be pretty neat to go to our home track.
Okay, well, thanks for being a part of the show once again, Jeff Rocco, here in our Waterbury studio. This show is being brought to you by Shaler Acura of Manchester, Connecticut, also Embroidery Works, J. Amontosano Auto Body, Jim's Lawn Care Service, the Grotto Restaurant. Don't forget about our good friends, the Grotto Restaurant, located right down the road, whether it's eat-in or take-out, 634 Watertown Avenue, right here in Waterbury, Connecticut, only 2 minutes from the Route I-84, Route 8 interchange. For all of our guests, Bob Englehart, Jeff Rocco, Max Zachem, Tom Graves, of course, the YouTube man, Robert Backett, and my co-host, Ricky Rotundo, and of course Tom Ormsby. We'll talk to you next Monday night, 6 to 7:30, right here on Speedway Line Report Radio. Good night.
Preceding has been a GMD production. Don't forget to listen to Gary next Monday night for more auto racing news on the Speedway Line Report. And in case you didn't catch the entire program tonight, check the archive shows at speedwaylinereport.com.
Did you run the car this week? No more before the religion.
This is 1320 AM.
Mike's are cold. Mike's hot or cold, and
take away your First Amendment rights.